Okay, and I think we are officially live. So let's just turn us up again. There we go. So
Fantastic.
I will introduce the fabulous Harry. So on today's video, as you all know, we've got Fathom joining us today, and they are a fantastic piece of software. And I'm not going to delve into it because we're going to let Harry talk all about this and explain exactly what it is, how it works, etc., and how it can benefit you as the bookkeeper or accountant and your clients too. So I'm just going to hand it over to Harry, and yeah, there we go.
Well, thank you very much for that introduction. A lot to live up to, I think. No, but yeah, thank you for having myself and Fathom first off. And like you said, I just want to sort of go through sort of a few key areas that I believe really does benefit, as you said, the accountant, the bookkeeper, and most importantly, your clients.
Yeah.
And sort of how you can actually use it in the real world and just make your life a ton easier. So what I'll do, I'll go into sharing my screen and we'll just jump straight in
Yeah.
with
Let's do it.
those key things. So here we go. Has that come through?
Yep, that's fab.
Okay, fantastic. So what I'll do is just in terms of Fathom, for everyone else, I'll give sort of almost like a real brief overview of the product before I want to focus on initially some areas in forecasting, because particularly at the moment it's pretty front of mind, being able to take some of the risk out of the upcoming sort of few months. But in terms of Fathom, there's the three main parts of the tool. So you've got the analysis section, which is very much a live interactive dashboard view on the current business performance. Things like ways to track the KPIs for the client, really sort of visual cash flow, animation, some various goal seek tools that you can really get involved, perhaps with sort of a live conversation with the client almost, and say, okay, let's look at last month, a few months before, and see that trend in your performance.
It's interesting from here, if you don't currently have any KPIs set up for your client, or even for yourself if you're doing your own reporting, there is a list of default and standard KPIs that you can look at to give you an idea of what you want to focus on. So that's really good.
Yeah, exactly that. You know, we've tried to get Fathom to a point where as soon as you've linked a client, no matter what, almost however much data they've got, things like KPIs, you do have that set list where you can get some data out and sort of see the performance. So yeah, definitely. With the reporting as well, the second part of the tool, it's where you tie everything together. You know, those monthly management packs, and really get it in an understandable way for your clients. It looks great. The visuals, the tables, really nice. But more importantly, perhaps for everyone I'm talking to, is it really can help save you time and just make your life easier. Because again, I speak to a lot of accountants and bookkeepers that time is very precious. So with that in mind, I'll point out a few tools later on in this demo that can really make a big difference, but seem like a sort of a niche part of Fathom.
I think that's what we're
Oh,
looking
sorry,
for.
Rebecca.
Time
Yeah.
saving, we're all for that.
Yeah. I thought you might be. And then the forecasting, as I said, which I'm going to touch on a few areas. Forecasting up to 3 years into the future, and really sort of drilling down into those key business decisions, which the numbers are there for everyone to, you know, the accountant to look at and sort of interpret. But we've built it as a way where you can then show to the client where they can see in a really understandable way sort of why you're perhaps giving certain advice. It's super clear and it's broken down in a way that they can understand, but driven by the numbers that you've built, basically. So with that being said, jump straight in. We also, by the way, we do consolidate and benchmark as well, which I'm happy to sort of talk to. I've got some contact details at the end, which I can sort of show everyone if they do want to get in touch as well.
Yes, certainly.
But what I'm on here sharing is the home screen. So this is where all my entities live, and because it's a demo account, you can see I've got a list view of loads of different organizations, but we integrate fully with Xero and fully with QuickBooks, also MyOB, but not as relevant here in the UK. And which basically means you log in, you link your account, and it pulls through all the data in a matter of seconds.
And it's actually shockingly quick. It updates itself 24 hourly, I believe, because you can see the last time that it was updated, but you can update it yourself as well. So it's clear as to when a change has been made. You can see that it's been reflected here. So that it's excellent.
Yeah, exactly. Just gives you that little peace of mind if you are rolling out a report that, okay, actually the data is up to date and is saying the right things, which wouldn't be ideal if not. So I'm going to jump straight into the forecast, and we're just going to go through a few things. Obviously happy to answer any questions, and I'm sure we'll probably get some, but as well, Rebecca, it would be great to sort of see how you, especially with the reporting as well, how you sort of use it, and which would be great. So what I'm taking to here, a little bit about this is the main grid. So it is a three-way cash flow forecast, and Fathom drives it from P&L. So a lot of the changes that we're going to be doing and sort of building happens on this screen here. What I've just expanded at the bottom here are sort of the first thing that I want to touch on is the quick metrics. So you can have up to 5 of these, and they're basically just the key numbers that you want to keep an eye on as you're building out your forecast. And what's great, especially for yourselves, is as soon as you make a change in these numbers, whether you put in a new value rule to push for these numbers, whatever happens, these spin up in real time, instantly. So you haven't got to sort of jump to and from different screens. Those 5 key metrics you want to keep an eye on spin up straight away for you to see the impact of anything that you do. If I just we'll touch on the value rules that you can get. We actually offer as well 2 ways to start this forecast. Well, 3 actually. We offer a quick start forecast, which basically defaults to what we call smart prediction. Which what that does is basically takes a line of best fit from your actuals that you're pulling in from Xero, QuickBooks, Excel, wherever, and then projects forward using that. And you can also include for seasonality, so those fluctuations that the client may see depending on what industry they're in will be picked up by Fathom and pushed forward. And as soon as you've linked that client, in theory, you could get a 3-year forecast within probably a minute or 2 since you've linked the client. You can also start from scratch, but that takes only 3 minutes longer than if you quick start. So we've tried to make it as easy as possible to get a really nice output straight away, and which again linking back to that time-saving element and not having to stress about building an initial forecast as a starting point.
I think what's great though, what I liked in particular is that sometimes when you're using a forecasting tool, you're not sure exactly how something has been worked out, but you can actually select a figure. So say in January 514343, you can click onto there, go onto the right, and you can see how that has been calculated using what method. So the smart prediction, let's just say, and it's telling you there that everything's been collected in 1 month. But if you had other adjustments made on top, they would be shown down there, or if it was a different prediction, then it'd be shown there as well. So it's very easy to drill down, which I've not always experienced with forecasting tools, shall we say.
Yeah, exactly that. And just almost further on from that point, if I just click the whole account of, by the way, I should have mentioned to everyone, it's a cafe, so hence the coffee, food, and tea. But everyone's probably thinking, why are they sort of random accounts coming in? That's why. But what you can see here is that timeline. So if you wanted, you could have a different value rule in each month of your forecast. But Fathom provides you this timeline to see exactly how you're building your forecast throughout the 3 years. And yeah, if the client does experience sort of payments over a number of months, you can map that out in a really nice and easy way in Fathom as well. That sort of covers the first key point, and it's also worth noting that one of the key things with our forecasting is the integration with the reports. So as soon as we do anything, it can be put into a report and ready to go. Which again, that whole getting it out into a readable format for your client in the past may have taken a lot more effort than it should have done, or a lot more time.
A lot more time.
As soon as I've done something, it's ready to be put into the report.
And what formats can you actually take the report out in?
Yeah, definitely. So I've got a little online report that I'll show everyone. So you get unlimited users within Fathom, so there's no cost for bringing in clients. So you get a really nice. There's a bit more animation on an online report, which is nice to look at. But you can also get that PDF output as well.
Yeah.
So a couple of ways there. The perhaps main thing that I really wanted to focus on today within the forecasting is something that is quite unique to Fathom, and it's these micro forecasts. So what they are for this, I'm going to hop to the roadmap, so just this tab on the left. Now, this is where it becomes really powerful for the client. Obviously, the value rules that I'm happy to also, go through in more detail with anyone that wants to know more, but, formula-based forecast, a smart prediction, whatever it may go slightly over a client's head. Now, what these are, I'll expand my quick metrics up. So the micro forecasts, they're ways to map out one-off business events. So as you can see here, I've got a few loaded as well. I've got some inactive ones. So staff hires, asset purchases, loans, whatever it's going to be, you can get it layered on top of your forecast and really drill down into what's going on. So, and this roadmap, what it does is contextualizes these. So, for example, you could be sitting down with the client and say, well, what about if we pulled forward this land purchase? How would that look earlier on in the year? And straight away, for me, you can see that actually this would put us in quite a lot of trouble. So we really, at the very least, need to push this back until the end of the year, and actually we look quite good. But we can really start manipulating these and going down into what is the sort of best way to implement these business decisions. And in terms of making these, we do have some sort of ways that, again, we try and make it as easy as possible. So if I just hit create micro forecast, and let's say we're going to have we'll go through the process, why not? I'm going to have a new chef at my cafe. Staff hire, starting date, as you see, is not really set in stone, so we can change that super easily and create. Now, for the popular ones, you're taken to this screen where we have some wizards set up to help you. If it is a micro forecast that isn't one of those, you can add accounts that are going to be affected one by one and build it out that way. But if I go into hire an employee, fill out their salary, select the account that it's going to be expensed, click next. And what this is telling me here now is, one, it's telling me you'll be able to customize it more. It just wants to get something up and running for you. But also, I have some tax settings set up for my forecast. And again, in terms of making your lives easier, once they're set up and applied to the relevant accounts, Fathom does everything automatically for you. You haven't got to worry about adding certain percentages on, working it out, and basically spending your time building the forecast rather than talking about it with your client.
And I'm just going to say, when it comes to wages, when you've got, you might have forecasted the actual cost, the gross cost, etc., but you might not have updated the balance sheet forecast, etc., for NIC, PAYE. So when this has been set up in the background, again, it's a massive time saver, and it's always that thing that you think about last minute that that bit needs to be done too. So it's almost a prompt as well. But like I say, it does have the default settings in the background. So yeah, massively helpful.
Well, that's exactly what we want to hear. So if I just add to micro forecast, we're then taken to this new chef's own main page where you can see all the movements that are going on. And if I just keep expanding these out, so at the moment you can see there's no incomings from this staff hire that I've made. So hopefully most business decisions you're going to see a bit of a return and hopefully make some money on it. What I can do for this is in the top right, just hit add account. And then hopefully that my new chef is going to bring in some new food revenue. Add this, and it brings it in as a new line where as soon as I click in there, the value rules that you'll be familiar with from building out the sort of main forecast is back in place. So in terms of keeping things as familiar as possible, it's something that we've really focused on, because the fact of having to click multiple tabs and go into different screens and try and figure out what the way to build things are is not something we want you to worry about.
No, and even if you've never produced a forecast before today, I would say that it's very easy to get started. And the more you play about with the system a little bit, and I would say, half an hour to an hour, and you could have a full forecast for the next 3 years with multiple different scenarios and anomalies, etc. going on, and understand where everything has come from very, very easily and quickly too. So yeah, it's very good from a learning perspective. And again, you don't have to be that familiar with forecasting to use it. So that's fantastic.
No. Yeah, that's great. That is. So if I just, for today's example, fill out. So these are your value rules, by the way, that you will, again, become very familiar with your options. Your formulas. You can use drivers in those formulas to link numbers and push it forward in a real granular way if you like. Or I'll just use a constant / growing amount. So perhaps I think this is going to improve it by 3,000 a month, growing by 5% each month, just for today's sake. So what we can see here, straight away, if in what I've inputted, which was very off the cuff, we've already made a profit in the first month of this hire. But if I was to edit this rule and say it was going to be 1,500 increasing by 5%, you can see here that actually we are now losing money on this until we get to, quite far down the line, where you could say to the client, well, actually, by January 2025, we're now making a profit on that. So although the quick metrics, it's all great them spinning up, but they can actually be used in a real life example in terms of, okay, when do we break even with this? And is it worth it?
It's in the last year, I must have had about 6, maybe 7 clients ask me, when can we hire someone else? Because we want them to take on the work and we want to make sure that we can cover those costs. So I must have done this calculation manually. I don't know how many times at this point. So it's massively useful.
Yeah. And straight away, just, you can see that I can add multiple accounts, whatever I like to this. So you can really build it out to quite a detailed way. But it's then that link to what I was saying right at the start of, I wanted to point out things that sometimes do fall underneath the radar with Fathom of, the client wants to know, as you said, can we afford it? And is it going to be worth it in the long run? And if they can wait till, in my case, January 2025 to make a profit, then you'd say, yeah, go ahead. So that's just a really nice sort of feature in there for you and your clients. And as soon as I hit the back arrow, we're taken back to our roadmap where, in that same way that we were before, I can manipulate it and change it as easy as that. And also, by the way, it's worth pointing out, if I just click onto one of these, it takes us straight to that main page to get a bit of a drill down into each micro forecast.
That's it.
The final thing, before I show you a report that sort of, it's actually based off one of our predefined templates, but I'll go into it more detail. And Rebecca, I'm sure you're very familiar with the reporting and sort of little things that are your favourites.
At this point.
So things up, great. But you want to sort of see, well, okay, as you see here, I've got best case, worst case. There's going to be a rival cafe. Scenarios are ways to branch off of your main forecast. And it's almost a way of hitting the save button as well.
Yeah.
On that main forecast. Is this something that you sort of use with the forecasting, Rebecca?
Yeah, because so if somebody again wasn't so familiar with forecasting, what would you say the difference is between the micro forecast and a scenario?
Yeah, good question. So I'd say the micro forecasts are almost internal business decisions that are going to affect the individual business, whereas the scenarios are ways to map out even like wider market events.
Yeah.
Your supply is going to increase the costs. What effect is this going to have on your overall forecasted numbers? That's where scenarios sort of differ from the more granular level micro forecasts.
And what you'll see in a second is that, again, scenario forecasting with different applications that I've used previously over the last 15 or so years. They're very difficult. Again, it's all about breaking it down, because you might produce a forecast and then, sleep on it, and the next day, you might have a question yourself, or a client might do, and you want to drill back down into those figures, and sometimes it's not so readily available for you to do that because the system you're using is not capable of drilling down to that level of detail. But the one thing that I really like about this is the fact that you can click on any single figure in scenario forecasting, micro, internal forecasting, the whole shebang, and know where it's come from and how it's been, calculated. So yeah, I do use scenario forecasting quite a lot. It's very useful.
Yeah. Oh, amazing. No, that's really good. And yeah, we really do want to make your lives easier, because that is the whole point of this. That's going to benefit everyone. But making your lives easier without sacrificing any of the quality in terms of the service that you're providing your clients. That's the main goal. And if I just create a scenario, we'll go through the process as I did with a micro forecast, but hit that. And then what I can do is say there's going to be a residential development. So, and this is sort of, again, a wider market event that's going to affect the business as a whole, sort of, rather than the individual components. So with this is I can add configurations in there, so you can see, well, hopefully there's going to be more demand, so actually we're going to see a little bump in our revenue, which will be great. We can have multiple ones, but as well, people use scenarios for reforecasting. I come across a lot of conversations saying, well, okay, it's great, we'll do a forecast now, but I want to reforecast in 6 months, in 12 months, in 18. But I also want to see that comparison.
Yeah.
You can with scenarios. Absolutely. So if I just go through this, and what we can do here as well is I can tick on and off maybe that I don't want that new staff hire if this was the case, but I'll keep it on. Go into my assets, keep those purchases. But what I'll do actually, if I just show you a couple of these ticked off, in terms of having the flexibility to change things as well, this is where it will sort of come in quite handy. And then create a scenario. So it takes us back to the roadmap where, all these numbers now are working off those configurations. I can drag and drop in the same way that I did before. But what I can also do, I can still bring in those inactive micro forecasts. Just because I told this Fathom that in this scenario I don't want them, we can still say, well, actually, I do want to see that. And it's as simple as ticking on and off. And if I go back to the main forecast, and this is where it sort of again comes full circle with that time saving and just making lives easier, is up here you can see that we're working on that scenario. I've got all my numbers, all the value rules I'll change. It will only take an effect on this scenario. But what I can do, if you are sitting down with the client or wanting to work on multiple sort of scenarios, if I just hit that, I can just jump to and from multiple scenarios on my forecast and work on it. And then back to my main forecast, I just hit that across and we're back. you get unlimited scenarios as well. So you really do have the freedom to both build tons of different scenarios, what if situations, but also have the ease of working on multiple ones with the click of a button, basically.
Which is shocking. I'm just thinking some horror stories in my mind of times when you produce a forecast, and it doesn't necessarily have to be an external client that I'm talking about with all of this. If you're a business, you're running your own business, and you have a finance team available and they're producing management accounts forecasting for you. I've had situations where I finish the forecast, it's taken me 3 days, and then the CFO comes in and goes, "Oh, can you just add this to the forecast?" And all of a sudden you're thinking, yeah, sure. But then it's another day, 2 days to make sure it's all filtered through. Whereas this is just a click of a button. And yeah, I feel as if I did my I grew up in the dark ages of accounting in comparison. So it's great.
Yeah, I do have a few conversations where it's the classic last minute request, maybe from a client, of, well, what about if we just put that in the forecast? And then it's not the easiest to implement it within a couple of hours.
No.
Absolutely. So, as I said, today is slightly different to sort of a full-blown demo. It's just the key areas I want to point out. But as I said, I've got my contact details at the end. That if we do want to go into more, the value rules and actually building it and things like that, absolutely fine. But I'm going to hop to reports now, and just point out some of those other key features now that link what we've done there to, okay, well, I want to give my client something to read. So I'm on my report center. So first thing to touch on is this. So the draft reports, anything that I'm working on is going to live here until I choose to do something else with. And we have predefined templates. So first of all, they're just ways to get started. They're, you haven't got to start from scratch. We've got basic sort of 2-page variance reports right through to more in-depth 14-page ones. And the one that I'm actually going to show you in a second is an advanced forecast analysis. It's based off it. And I haven't changed anything. I've just put a nice picture as the header. I promise that's all I've done.
Okay.
So with these, what you can do is, if I go into here, so this is the one, but first thing I want to touch on is if you're making forecasts and reports for 5, 10, 15, 100 clients, whatever it may be, and you think, actually, this report will be perfect for every single one of them, this Save as a Template is going to become your best friend. Because as soon as I built it, all I have to do is hit that, give it a name, and then it goes into our custom templates. Where you can see I've got some example ones, e-commerce clients, whatever it may be, and I can edit template sharing. And once I click that, I can share it amongst every entity on my Fathom account. So they're super happy because they're getting a really nice professional looking report that you've built. I'm sure you are even happier because you've built one report for the output of multiple clients.
Yes, and not just that though. If I've done this before, and there might be some tiny tweaks you want to make to it. So if you present it to the client and say, "This is what we have right now. This is a draft format for you. Is there anything you want to change?" Then you've basically just built the draft report from scratch by the click of one button, and it's just minor tweaks, which again saves you time, saves the client time, and everybody's happy. So yeah, that's an excellent feature.
Yeah. I'd say the main thing, as long as everyone's happy, then we're good to go. And I'll also just touch on the scheduling of reports, because linking it again with the template is you can get Fathom to roll out your reports automatically.
Yeah.
So if it is monthly reports and you want to use that template and roll it out, you can get them scheduled to go to your draft reports, where in terms of giving users logins, you could perhaps will say, okay, I want this client to see only published reports and not what I'm working on. And that way you can almost just proof check it before publishing it or downloading it, but you can get it to go straight to your published, which would technically mean I personally wouldn't be able to, because I'd have to just check it for my own sanity. You could get it rolling out and publishing automatically without having to touch a button in Fathom's reporting.
Yeah, that if you had a very straightforward sole trader set of accounts or something similar, and you didn't, like say, you didn't necessarily need to sense check it that much, then I would definitely use that. I would be paranoid.
Yeah.
I'd still have to go in and check it, but at least it does it for you. So,
Yeah.
again, another time saver.
Yeah, exactly. And worst case, if you have published a report, you can just revert it back to draft.
Yeah, that's really good.
So it's not locked in, and you don't have to panic too much. But if I just go into viewing this now to sort of see a few things that I can look at. Now, as I said, in terms of building this report, I can, depending on time, I can sort of revert it to draft and just show you the functionality. But as I said, I'm happy to go through in a lot more detail the more functionality side. It's just get across what sort of output you can get. In terms of white labeling and design, you can see that I've just chosen an image. You can bring in your own logo, whatever you need, and sort of design it that way. But if I just scroll through here, you can see that I've got a snippet of my business roadmap in here. I want to, show that in a sort of almost a hard copy for the client. But if I just scroll through, we've now got a nice little breakdown of one of my micro forecasts. So it's not just limited to living in the forecast. This is what I meant with the integration. If they have a particular interest in my case, the delivery van, and the effect that this is going to have, I can select the month that I want to look at and sort of roll forward to see a breakdown of all those movements and effect that this is having. If I just keep scrolling through, we've got some different tables. These can all be customized to show whatever you want, by the way. It's just entirely what the client's going to want to see. We've got some cash flow as well analysis. With what this basically showing me here is the actuals up until this October report, and then actually what we forecasted for operating net and free cash flow as well. A little handy feature as well is you may want to sort of send the report out to the client first to have a little look at before speaking to them. Now, as I hover over each thing, you can see a little comment bubble pop up. And what this basically does is, I can leave a comment and it's timestamped with a name. So it's almost a way to start that conversation before you have, maybe that meeting to go over the key figures. And it's another one of those features that perhaps doesn't steal the headlines, but actually it's a really useful one for that conversational side of the service that you provide.
Yeah, and also if you're sending out management accounts for review before they're finally published, your client might want to add additional commentary, which they can add to that, which you can then in turn add to the final report. So, yeah, it's again very, very useful. Can't stress it enough.
Yeah, just keep saying how useful it is. It's great. But as I just scroll through here, and we can bring in our rolling 12-month forecast in a table format. So it's really nice. You can sort of bounce, depending on, you all know your clients. They may react better to seeing it in this table format of, just give me the numbers. That's all I need. However, they may react a load better to a more visual report. We've tried to make it as easy as possible to, maybe weight it more to a visual side or combine the two. Basically, whatever suits the client's needs, we've tried to match it. And we've got some forecast projections as well. And what's nice about this is we can actually bring in scenario projections as well. So I could have, say, I want to see my cash on hand for the last 6 months, and then, well, I want to see what my main forecast is telling me, my best case, that residential development. I want to see all three of those branching off, and that is something that you can get as a comparison and a projection in your reports. And right on cue, there is one right there, scenario analysis. Looking at revenue in this case, but as you can see, I've chosen in this report my best case and worst case. And then we've got some annual summaries. And then finally, this is the last section, the three-way forecast. So your P&L, your balance sheet, and your cash flow statement to finish it off.
One thing I'll say about all of the items that you're seeing now is they are completely customizable. So if you've got a client who prefers rounded figures, they prefer figures to 1,000, etc., or they don't like the table format, they prefer a scatter graph or a bar graph or whatever it might be, you can do that, and you can do that fairly quickly too. So when I send these out to a client, I've got a listing of preferred formats, and they just tick, send it back to me, and I prepare the report based on the back of that, which is just an idea if you're thinking of doing this.
Yeah, absolutely. And as I said, it's just I don't want to sort of throw a ton of information to everyone watching. If anyone obviously is interested, because it's all well and good me saying, look how good it looks and things like that, but actually how you build it is obviously a key part to any software you're thinking of implementing. But out of interest, Rebecca, what would you say is like your favourite feature within the sort of reporting?
I think you'll hear me say this time and time again throughout Tech November, because I've worked with what can only be described as horror stories of software in the past, like really bad software, and it's not because the software is particularly bad in itself. It's just it's not bespoke enough for what it is that you need it to do. So it might just be something off the shelf and not something that you've necessarily built. So my favourite thing about Fathom and other pieces of software is the simplicity of it. I like to know where to go to get the information that I need, to edit it, to customise it quickly, without hassle, and as I say, without having to go to some sort of support network, because the support network is fantastic, by the way, with Fathom, and you send something off and you'll get a response within 5 minutes, not let alone the 15 minutes that they state as standard. So they're very supportive, but it's the fact that it's very clear. So it's clear where your reports are, you draft, you publish, as you can see here, all of your templates. When you are customising them, which we're not going to go into in great details in this, but it's easy to use, and it's clear. So if you've ever produced a set of management accounts, let alone the forecasting, you'll know sometimes when you've actually finished a report and you want to get it into a certain format so that this now fits on this page, or you want it in landscape and not portrait, it can be the biggest pain that you've ever imagined in your life. So here it is a click of a button, and you can have one page portrait, the next landscape, so on and so forth, little things like that. But you can tell that Fathom's been built by people who have worked with accountants and bookkeepers, because you understand the pains that we have been through. So yeah, I just love the whole thing, because from my point of view, because I have to have things in a certain way. So it has to be, if I'm thinking about management accounts or forecasting, I want to know that I've sorted out all of my KPIs, and you've got a section for that. I want to know I've done my forecast, you've got a section for that. Management accounts, you've got another section for that, and get it all ties together seamlessly. So yeah, I can't talk about it enough, to be honest.
Amazing.
Love it.
No, that's really nice to hear. And absolutely, we have listened to the pains of accountants and bookkeepers and taken it on board and continue to build Fathom. We are always developing it based off, I speak to prospective customers, and they'll say, "Oh, we really need this." So if it's something that Fathom doesn't do, firstly, hopefully we do it, but also I pass it straight onto the product team. As soon as I come across it, can be something super small or something that would require larger development, but anyone, and I can speak for my colleagues, they do the same, and we're always looking to build Fathom to benefit yourselves that have said, this is what we struggle with and we need help with.
I think what's interesting about you though is that you feel very much part of our bookkeeping and accounting community, in that, like I say, as we do say, oh, we'd really like it to do this. It does this currently, but we'd really like it to do this as well. You don't just say, no, this is what it does, get on with it. You go, right, no problem, let's take it away. Let's think about how we can build this for you. And the turnaround on that is very quick as well. So, I've had some very good experiences in that way in the past with you.
Amazing.
So yeah, again, the support from Fathom, amazing. 5 star, 5 out of 5.
Oh dear. Well, again, it really is appreciated hearing that. And what I've just put on screen, in terms of, so, you know, if this is of interest, firstly, any questions, there's no such thing as too many questions, please send them to me. Happily answer anything. We offer a free trial of the software as well, where it will most likely be myself as your point of contact, and basically what the process is during that trial, it's my job firstly to hear what you need help with and sort of what areas Fathom can help you, but also get you up to speed to a point of, okay, I can confidently use this for my client base. And there's no rush, there's no, you know, we don't need any card details on that trial, we don't sneakily say, right, you're signed up, thanks. We basically, I will just work with you to try and solve all your problems.
And you do, because you've been in touch with me a few times. And late at night trying to do something is not the best time to try. But yeah, you've always been fantastic. What I'll just add to that is, if anybody is using Fathom or wants help building the reports, then you can always get in contact with me, because I have helped quite a few individuals building reports from scratch for their clients. So again, you've got more support on top of Harry here if you need it.
Yeah, that's amazing. And you know, I've definitely spoken to a few people that I can send your way, Rebecca. So
Yeah,
we'll keep that in mind for sure.
Brilliant. Okay, well, we'll end it there. But I hope all of the viewers on the channel and also in the Facebook group have benefited from seeing Fathom, seeing what you can do. Do try the demonstration and the free trial, because it's if I was to say, it probably saves me currently at least 6 days in a working month just on my time alone. To put it into perspective, real practice perspective, is definitely worth it. So give it a go if you haven't already.
Yeah, I couldn't put it any better myself.
Yeah, but thank you so much for joining me, Harry, and I'm sure there'll be a few people getting in touch with you after this. Otherwise,
thank you so much for having me, and it's been an absolute pleasure.
You're welcome. Take care. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
All right,
Cheers.
bye.
Bye. Bye.